YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Today I'm going to rank the likely landing spots for Aaron Rodgers if he is traded this offseason. Will he be traded? What has to happen? Who are the most appealing spots? We're breaking that all down. First, we'll talk about a list of teams that some people may view as legit landing spots. I'm going to tell you why they're probably not, and then we'll get into the ranking the top tier teams for an Aaron Rodgers trade. So did a very similar video for Jimmy Garoppolo. We have all kinds of offseason videos up on the channel. Definitely more to come. We have you covered fully for the draft, for free agency, anything NFL. We got you. So like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Check out our Patreon, some bonus offseason content there. Any link you're looking for, pin in the comments down below. So check it out. Here's our Twitter. Constant updates. A lot of coaching updates we're talking about. Constantly giving thoughts on things, predictions. So check it out. So here's a list of teams that many view as possible, but probably unlikely. A couple teams that I'd say the Packers just more appealing. The Browns, I guess, debatable. Browns are a run-first team. Of course, they would kind of change that if they got Aaron Rodgers, but run-first team, missing receivers. So maybe not, maybe Rodgers may go, I'd rather just stay in Green Bay. I think the same thing goes with the Eagles, who are a playoff team but could use some more receivers there. Definitely need to fix some things up on defense, some free agents. And the same thing if you kind of go down the list, same thing for Washington football team, which I think Washington's a little more appealing than maybe everyone else thinks. Not too many holes in that team, but I still think he would view it as Green Bay being more appealing. But then you see teams that don't really have the offensive line to be appealing enough. Two teams that are pretty similar, I think. Panthers, Dolphins, both they have pretty good defenses. Those teams are appealing, or those parts of the team are appealing. But the weapons as well. I mean, you got Jalen Waddle for the Dolphins. The Panthers got quite a few if healthy. DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson. But the offensive lines are some of the worst in the NFL. So where Rodgers like, am I going to be getting beat up out there at my old age? We might be pretty good still. So I don't know about that. The Saints don't have the cap space. They're about negative $74 million or so. They will clear it. They'll get down to zero. How much further up from zero will they get? Probably not enough to make this move. If they do, this is the only move they will be able to make. So it's pretty unlikely. 49ers kind of like make sense at first glance, like a team that he can't beat, a team that if he went to, they would be the Super Bowl favorites, guaranteed. They will win the Super Bowl, and so it's a very appealing spot. I mean, they have Trey Lance to trade, but they don't have the draft picks to trade. Like, it's not just going to take Trey Lance; it's going to take a lot more. They don't have a first round this year or next year, so that's where it won't happen, but there's so many things that make sense, like the appealing spot, like I explained. They have Trey Lance. They're going to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo, clear that space, so they have enough space. They just don't have those draft picks. That's the tough part there. We talked about Washington kind of in the same category of the Browns and the Eagles. And the Giants, very hard to clear the cap space. They're in negative cap space right now, nowhere near where the Saints are at. But the problem is, are there ways to clear space? Yeah, there's some ways. Cut some players that maybe they don't want to cut. Try to trade a guy like Daniel Jones. It won't clear a whole lot. Restructure some contracts. If they do all of that, so a lot has to happen. If they do all of that, they'll clear a good amount of space, but it's kind of borderline enough, and then you've kind of made the team worse where it's kind of less appealing, but they have the coaching staff now that might be appealing. It's just a lot kind of has to happen, but I think that's a pretty good roster actually over there, but it's just they don't really have the room. A lot has to happen there. And you might not view New York as the most appealing spot, but I think that team might be pretty decent, but they have to make the team worse in order to afford him. So it's actually ranked the top tier landing spots. I have the Colts at 7. I think it's a pretty appealing landing spot. Even though they didn't make the playoffs, it's a pretty good team. Their quarterback kind of let them down a little bit this year. I think this could be possibly could be the Super Bowl favorites or a top tier contender if they get Rodgers. And then, it kind of comes down to, yes, the Packers have to trade Rodgers, but Rodgers may just say, if you trade for me, I don't want to play for you. I'd rather retire. So that may take teams off the market for him. But a team like the Colts, it's kind of a question mark. Are they a team where, he'll be like, I'll play for you. I won't play for them. Possibly. I think it's pretty possible. So maybe some of these negatives don't play a part because maybe he goes, I'll only play for the Colts. I don't think that's the case. I think if it was the case, it'd probably be the Colts is realistic. But them and other teams, not just the Colts, what I'm saying. And they have the cap space. They have a good amount of cap space here. Rodgers, if traded for his cap hit in 2022, would be $27.49 million. You see on your screen. They don't have that. That's a key. They don't have that first round pick, and that's what weighs them down, brings them down the ranking list here. If they had that first round pick in 2022, they'd be towards the top. And they don't have that because of the Carson Wentz trade, because other teams are going to have better offers. Even if they had their first round pick, other teams may have better offers, but he may be like, I'd rather go to the Colts, but these don't have that first-round pick. Of course, they have future first-round picks, but somebody's offering future first-round picks with this year's pick. Are the Packers may like, maybe we'll just let them sit for now rather than do that. So that is a major negative here for the Colts trying to get Aaron Rodgers. Kind of combining, teams will have the better offer. They don't have the first-round pick. And they are a little, so like I said, a pretty appealing landing spot to me, but will Rodgers go, hey, it's pretty much just Michael Pittman over there? That's kind of a problem, so they'd have to get Rodgers, add some other receivers or opposite order there. So it's possible, mainly because it's an appealing landing spot. Just some things have to happen here. Number 6, go with the Bucs. Yeah, one of the more appealing landing spots. The Bucs, very good team. They were a very good team with Brady, but I think Rodgers would come in there and think he can do the same thing or better here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's another one of those teams where it's like, okay, this other team may make a better offer, but I'm going to tell them I'm not going to play for them. I'll just retire. I'll play for the Bucs. Kind of similar to the Colts. A little bit of a question mark. Will he do that? These are teams that I think are good enough that he would do that for. But there are some problems with the Bucs. Pretty low on cap space. They have positive cap space, but they're pretty low to afford that $27.49 million. Other teams may have a better offer because they don't have the best draft pick. And they have a lot of key free agents, so they want to use their only cap space to bring back. I think the focus would probably be like Godwin and Jensen. Get those guys back, and maybe they'll let everyone else walk. If they're trying to get Aaron Rodgers, they probably restructure some contracts, cut a couple players that they don't really need, clear the space, get Rodgers, and then it's a appealing spot for him, and they can do some damage. But yeah, it's a little tricky because low on cap space, got to get these free agents back. Are they appealing if they don't have these free agents back? So some question marks there for the Buccaneers, so why they were a little lower on the rankings. Number 5 is going to be the Steelers. I originally had them higher up. I dropped them down a little bit because all of a sudden they're in talks about some of these rookie quarterbacks as well, but somewhat of an appealing spot. I mean, they have some good receivers. They got a good coaching staff. Mike Tomlin, they're always kind of in win-now mode. Their defense is always a pretty solid defense, at least. And they have the cap space for Aaron Rodgers. It's a good thing. I think they're going to kind of be in that category where they're gonna go for a quarterback. So we have to kind of throw the Steelers in all these lists where whether it's rookie quarterbacks in the draft or Rodgers, Watson, Garoppolo. I think the Steelers are going to be involved for that reason for any of these quarterbacks. They have other needs. So do they go? Yeah, we're going to spend on everything on Rodgers, and then you're kind of left with those needs. That's why I said somewhat appealing. Maybe not as appealing as the other teams, and that's because the offensive line. So will Rodgers view, it's kind of a question, will Rodgers view that offensive line as, I don't know if I really want to go there. Do I want to get hit at my age that much, more than I have been in Green Bay? And other teams may have a better offer because Steelers were in the playoffs, so a little bit down the list there in the first-round picks. Some team with a top 10 pick may have a better offer there, or they can use another player to involve in that offer. Titans talk starting to heat up. So the Titans kind of raising up the list a little bit. There are some obstacles they have to get over. Rumors about Rodgers maybe viewing that as an appealing spot, which shouldn't be really surprised. And Rodgers moving to Nashville, which doesn't mean a whole lot. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting, but doesn't mean a whole lot. But it's definitely one of the more appealing landing spots, I'd say. And I kind of talked about it maybe with the Bucs, but they may lose some free agents. Maybe with the Colts, but they have some holes at receiver. I'd say with the Titans, if Rodgers went there, I'd say that they would be Super Bowl favorites. I pretty much guarantee that, depending on what other teams are doing in the offseason. And it's definitely a team he can refuse to, I want to go to Tennessee. If you trade for me over there, this team over there, I'm not going to play. I'm going to retire. I'd rather just stay in Green Bay. For the Titans, all right, maybe I'll do that. I'll play for them. So that could be the case there. And, talking about one of the negatives is they're very low on cap space. They actually have negatives. So people are like, it's not really possible. And it does seem close to not possible. But if you actually look into their their contracts, their situation, I kind of did a deep dive into this. They actually have a good amount of ways to clear cap space. We talked about other teams with poor cap space situation. They got to bring guys, they got to sign free agents, or they don't have a lot of ways to clear the space. Titans actually do. It's still an obstacle. And what are those? I mean, trading Tannehill saves clear, and we'll get into that and how hard that could be, but that would clear a good amount of space. They have some pretty restructurable contracts, which would clear money now. You pay it later, which you'd be in a hole later, but if you have the team to win the Super Bowl, it's really not a problem. And they have... Yeah, they just have ways to be able to clear that space, obviously. A lot of restructurable contracts, can trade Tannehill, can move on from some players there in a pretty good roster where they don't need to go get these things and spend more money for this to work, for Rodgers, for it to be an appealing spot or be that Super Bowl team. But they are low on the cap space. They have negative cap space right now, and they have to find a taker for Tannehill. Like I said, they have ways to clear space. And it's more than just trading Tannehill, but you need all of it. You need everything to happen. You need... you need to be able to clear all that space that we're talking about because they got to clear kind of a lot here. So they have to find a taker for Ryan Tannehill, and that is pretty tricky. And you could say trade him for nothing. Trade him for a 7th-round pick. Maybe give away late-round picks for somebody to take him. Makes sense, but that's really not the problem. Do teams want to pay him? It'd be a $29 million cap hit for teams this year. And then the big one next year is also, it's going to be at least $27 million cap hit next year too. So do teams want to be on the books for 2 years of Ryan Tannehill for those prices? It's hard to find those teams. It's hard to find the teams that can do that. I think the teams that can do that, looking at now and the future, and then you have to factor in teams that want to do that too. So you take the list of teams that need a quarterback, pretty big. Teams that can actually do this for paying Ryan Tannehill this year, next year, starts to get smaller. And then teams that actually want to, it might be nothing. Or maybe you're left with a couple teams. I kind of look at teams like the Steelers and the Panthers. But, Panthers have been kind of going for these types of quarterbacks. Hasn't really worked out. It's kind of go big or go home. So it is very, very tricky. The fix here would be for the Titans to restructure Ryan Tannehill's contract. So the team would pay less cap-wise for him this year. Wouldn't really be able to solve next year, though, but that could make it work. Titans are going to be on the, have a lot of cap hits, and a ton of cap hits in the future, though, if they do that. It could happen. It's just a lot has to happen. And could teams make better offers? I do think there are some teams that can make some better offers still, too. So Titans, very appealing landing spot. There's some rumors floating around there. A lot has to happen. Some obstacles here, but there are some people out there saying it just can't happen. It's not possible. That's actually not true, but it's not far. It's closer to not possible than it's happening, but it's in between those basically. Number 3, I'm going to go Raiders. Now the Raiders could immediately, the first kind of negative on why it won't happen, could immediately be off this list. They probably have the easiest way to be off this list, yet they're at number 3. We'll get into why. But the easiest way for them to be removed from the sweepstakes of Aaron Rodgers is we like Derek Carr. We're gonna keep him, or we're gonna extend him, which he's due for an extension. He's only got 1 more year left. It sounds like Josh McDaniels likes him, so very easily could be taken off that. But the Raiders could be, they were actually in on Russell Wilson a little bit. That was appealing to them last year. Could they be like, hey, if we get Rodgers, we're gonna be even better? They can be in on him because of that appealing landing spot, and they may actually have the best trade offer using Derek Carr. Packers wouldn't be they want draft picks, and then we talked about Titans need to deal with Tannehill, but Packers aren't going to want Tannehill. They will want Carr. That's pretty appealing trade piece there. And they could afford. They technically don't have enough space for Aaron Rodgers right now, but some simple moves. Not even cutting players, really, just restructuring, which restructuring is never really a great thing because you're pushing money to the future, but that kind of goes into the next thing. The Raiders have the league's most projected cap space the next couple of years here, so they have tons of future cap space to use now. That helps you restructure. It helps you. You can use that now if you want to extend Aaron Rodgers. You can pay him for the future, so that makes sense to me. They could just go with Carr, and they have other needs too. So is it as appealing landing spot for Rodgers? Because, offensive line, a little bit of a question mark. It could be good enough. Could use another receiver. Definitely could use defense. So, do they focus on his other needs? Is it that appealing for Aaron Rodgers because of that? So now we get into the top two on where he'll end up during this offseason, or where he'll play next year. Go Broncos at 2, which is probably the team talked about the most as the number 1 landing spot here. And there's a reason they're number 2, and we'll talk about number 1. But very realistic for the Broncos to get him. That's why they're at number 2. I'm very confident they will make an offer, so that kind of puts them at the top right off the bat, because we gotta try to predict who will make offers to even include in this, and then can they get the job done. The Broncos will make an offer. Pretty appealing landing spot. They got playmakers, and they have connections. They bring in Nathaniel Hackett. They got some guys with Packers ties there. So that it's a pretty appealing landing spot to him. How appealing is it that Nathaniel Hackett is there? I think some people are saying that we just don't know. Basically what I'm getting to is we really don't know. I think it could be more appealing to other teams. I don't think it's kind of what makes the deal go done. Like, all right, Nathaniel Hackett's there, I'm going there. I don't really think so. He's prepared to leave the Packers in the past when he was there. It's not because of Nathaniel Hackett, obviously, but I don't think it's the route or I don't think we can say that Nathaniel Hackett's there, so Aaron Rodgers going there. Definitely can't say that. They have the cap space for sure to pay Rodgers. $27.49 million will be his cap hit this year, because the Packers will be on the books for some of it, so they won't get the full cap hit, obviously, for these teams. And they may have the best trade offer. We talked about the Raiders could using Derek Carr, but the Broncos have the 9th overall pick in the draft, so that is pretty damn appealing, I'd say. There, it's a top 10 draft pick, so that could help the Packers in, whatever they want, whatever route they want to go. Could be quarterback, may not be quarterback. I start to wonder, though, would Rodgers really prefer Denver over Green Bay? Like, I think he would actually prefer Tennessee. I think he would prefer some of those other teams we talked about with the Broncos. Kind of a question here, because are they, is he more likely to win now in Denver than Green Bay? It kind of goes to the next part. Put in AFC West is tough. That is a tough division to go into with the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Raiders. Mahomes and Herbert in that division, they're all kind of beating up on each other. The Chiefs been in control mainly. But multiple reasons why you could say, look at the Broncos. They got weapons. They got Javonte Williams. They got, Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy. I love me some Javonte Williams, but the Packers got Aaron Jones, so it's not much different there. Rodgers probably view Aaron Jones as better right now. And then receivers, the Broncos have a deeper group than the Packers. They don't have Devontae Adams though. And there's talk about will they be able to bring Devontae Adams on? That's a whole other conversation. Bring him with, I suppose, and I'd say probably not. I think the Packers. My prediction would be the Packers franchise tag him. So I don't think it's. People are so confident that Rodgers is coming, Devontae Adams. They say, hold up, slow your roll a little bit with the Devontae Adams is coming too stuff. But yeah, so pretty even in terms of offensive weapons and offensive line. If he feels more comfortable with the Packers guy, the Packers guys, there's no Devontae Adams in Denver. And you look at the defense, you may say, well, Denver had a top tier defense last year, and they did. You can definitely make the case they're better than the Packers. Packers defense getting better though. It seems like the Broncos do have some key free agents. They don't have Vic Fangio calling the defense. It's realistic to think the defense could take a step down. Not saying by a lot, but it's realistic. So could he view the Packers as just better? Than the Broncos, and then you throw in those AFC West teams. Like, there is a good shot you don't win that division. There's a shot you do, but there's a shot where there's 2 teams, 3 finishing up, even if you're a good team, finishing above you, and then you might somehow miss out the playoffs with a great record. It might be one of those situations. So I just recently started to think about those things and where he may just go, I'd rather just stay in Green Bay. I think it's possible. There's a lot of positives here. They are going to make an offer. They're going to make a run. It's a big reason why they brought Hackett in. They have the cap space. They have a great trade offer, so there's some big-time positives. But number 1 is some people probably were expecting some random team, but I just got the Packers up here. And in the past, I think this Rodgers trade, he wants out talk started happening 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, I was like, no, he's going to be playing for the Packers. There's people out there kind of overreacting, saying, oh, where's he going to go? He's going to go here, he's going to go there. And I was saying, no. Last year, same thing. I even said I'd eat my own underwear if he was playing for a different team. People were kind of getting nervous for me. I was honestly never nervous. I thought he was going to play. I was guaranteeing he was going to play for the Packers. This year, I'm not making any of those bets. I think it's very possible he's elsewhere. So I'm not sitting here saying no shot he's playing elsewhere. So it's different for me this year, but I still think it's probably more likely he plays for the Packers. And this is a way too early stage. I mean, probably get a better prediction when the new league year starts, which is middle of March. But the Packers could refuse to trade him. Definitely possible. They do need to clear space though. But we'll get into that. Maybe his best option win now. You start to think about that. Are these options out there the most appealing? I'd say the Tennessee Titans probably the most, but can they make it work? Do they realize it's gonna be a problem if we make this work? We're gonna screw ourselves for the future. Do they even attempt it because of that? So the Packers might just be his best option. The only team we know is in on him is the Broncos, and he may just say, I might be better off with the Packers here. Maybe he doesn't say that, but maybe he does. They actually have plenty of future cap space for now. They gotta tag and extend Devontae Adams. They gotta, if they extend Aaron Rodgers, they have to pay. I mean, that takes hits off the future. They want to re-sign some guys, Devondre Campbell, but they actually have cap space in the future. That kind of goes to, they're very low on cap space. They have almost negative 50 or so cap space. So you almost do get the feeling, they have to move on from Rodgers. They have to clear space. And it does feel like that, but people don't kind of look at the future. And what does future cap space have to do with anything? Well, you can take money and push it to the future with restructures fairly easy, and that will open up space. Right now they can move on from some players as well. They can, they may. I've heard they could extend Rodgers. They'll at least offer. I think they will offer, so they can make him some offer that he can't really turn down, and just backloading the crap out of it because they actually have the future cap space, which people don't realize. So we'll see if an extension offer comes around. There was one early last year reported that he didn't agree to, and they kind of reworked the deal where he was tradable after the. That would be the reason why it feels like he could be gone, is because the way they reworked that deal was like, we're going to trade you next year because that's what you want. We may not refuse anymore. So I do think things maybe have changed since then. But Rodgers could demand a trade. He'll make his decision. He may demand a trade, or he may just retire if you don't trade me. So we'll see. I just think it's early. A lot of things need to happen. Again, the only team that we know are in on him is the Broncos, so let's kind of get more teams involved here. And when it comes to the Broncos versus Packers, is he going to be like, yes, send me there? It's a pretty appealing spot, but we will see. Maybe the Broncos already know he's willing to come there, and that's why they brought in Hackett and those guys. So maybe. So it's pretty tight between the Broncos and the Packers at the top for me. It's still pretty early, like I said. I know there's some Titans rumors starting to heat up, some obstacles to get over, but what we learned today is they actually can get over those obstacles. There's a lot of work to do there. So those are my thoughts on Aaron Rodgers for right now. We'll definitely talk about this along with other free agents, trade targets. It's going to be a wild offseason. It really is going to start picking up in March, too. And we have you covered for that. My favorite time of the year. Got you covered for the draft as well. Yeah, join us for all that. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Follow us on Twitter. Links, important links, pinned in the comments. It's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.